The real estate agent kept checking her watch. The buyers were getting impatient in the driveway, and I was standing there with a crowbar in my hands, staring at the one door Michael had told me never to open. I thought I was just clearing out junk to sell our house. I had no idea I was about to uncover a secret that would shatter everything I believed about my marriage, my family, and my own identity. My name is Sarah Chen, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. Married for 12 years to Michael Chen, a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. We lived in a modest 2-story house on Maple Street with faded blue shutters and a front porch that Michael kept meaning to repair, but never quite got around to. It was the kind of neighborhood where people still waved at each other from their driveways, and where the biggest drama was usually about whose turn it was to organize the annual block party. Michael was the steady type, predictable in the best possible way. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., he'd wake up, make coffee strong enough to wake the dead, kiss my forehead, and head out to his home office in the converted spare bedroom. He worked from home 3 days a week, commuted to the downtown office the other 2. Weekends were for grocery shopping together, working in the garden, and binge-watching whatever series we'd fallen behind on during the week. We didn't have children, not by choice, exactly, but not from lack of trying either. After years of fertility treatments, specialist appointments, and the kind of hope that slowly erodes your soul, we'd quietly stop talking about it. Michael threw himself into his work. I focused on my job as a high school librarian, and we settled into the comfortable rhythm of a couple who'd learned to find contentment in small things. Saturday morning pancakes, his terrible jokes during grocery shopping, the way he'd always leave little post-it notes on my coffee mug with messages like "You're amazing," or "Don't forget you're awesome." Looking back now, I wonder if those notes were guilt as much as love. Michael died on a Tuesday in March, sudden cardiac arrest at 41 years old. The paramedics said it was likely a congenital heart defect that had gone undiagnosed his entire life. One moment he was in a video conference call with his team, the next moment he was on the floor of his office. I found him when I came home from work, still wearing the navy blue button-down shirt I'd ironed for him that morning. The funeral was exactly what Michael would have wanted. Simple, no fuss, just close family and friends. His parents flew in from California, my mom drove down from Dallas, and his co-workers filled the back rows of the funeral home. Everyone kept telling me how sorry they were, how unexpected it was, how Michael was such a good man. I nodded and smiled and accepted casseroles I wouldn't eat and flowers that would die within a week. But the strangest thing about the whole experience was how normal it felt. Not the grief, that was devastating, and sharp and completely overwhelming, but the logistics, the decisions, the way everything just proceeded. The bank accounts were joint. The house was in both our names. His life insurance policy listed me as the sole beneficiary. There were no surprises, no missing documents, no mysterious phone calls or unexplained debts. It was almost disappointingly straightforward for someone who'd just lost the love of their life. Almost. The first sign that something wasn't quite right came 3 weeks after the funeral, when I was finally ready to start going through Michael's things. His clothes, his books, his collection of vintage computer keyboards that he insisted would be worth something someday. I was working my way through his desk drawers when I found a small brass key taped to the underside of the bottom drawer. It wasn't labeled, didn't match any lock I recognized in the house, and when I asked his parents about it during their follow-up visit, they had no idea what it could be for. Michael always was one for keeping little treasures, his mother said with a sad smile. Remember when he was 8, and he kept that box of special rocks under his bed? Turned out they were just regular gravel from the driveway, but he was convinced they were precious gems. I smiled at the memory, but something about the key bothered me. Michael wasn't sentimental about objects, he was practical, organized, almost obsessively neat. Everything in our house had a place and a purpose. This random key, hidden in his desk, didn't fit his personality at all. The second sign came a month later, when I decided to list the house for sale. The Austin housing market was hot, and my real estate agent, Patricia Valdez, assured me that our place would sell quickly, despite needing some cosmetic updates. We walked through every room, making notes about staging and minor repairs, until we got to the detached garage. "We'll definitely want to clear this out," Patricia said, pushing against the side door. "It's been locked this whole time." I frowned. "I guess so. Michael always kept it locked, said it was his workshop space." "Well, we'll need to show it to potential buyers. Do you have the key?" That's when I realized I'd never actually been inside Michael's garage. Not once in 12 years of marriage. He'd always called it his man cave, and told me it was just a messy workspace, where he tinkered with old computers and stored seasonal decorations. I'd never had any reason to go in there, and honestly I'd been perfectly happy to let him have his own space. But now, standing there with Patricia, I felt incredibly foolish. What kind of wife never sees her husband's workshop? What had I been thinking all these years? I went back to the house and searched everywhere for a garage key. His keyring only had keys for the house, his car, and his office building. I checked kitchen drawers, bedroom nightstands, even the junk drawer where we kept spare batteries and takeout menus. Nothing. That's when I remembered the brass key taped under his desk drawer. "Found it," I told Patricia the next day, holding up the small key. "Let's see what we're dealing with." Patricia smiled and made a note on her clipboard. "Perfect. I've got a showing scheduled for this afternoon, so we'll want to get in there and assess what needs to be cleared out. Honestly, most buyers love a good workshop space, so if it's reasonably organized, it might actually be a selling point." The real estate agent kept checking her watch. The buyers were getting impatient in the driveway, and I was standing there with a crowbar in my hands, staring at the one door Michael had told me never to open. I thought I was just clearing out junk to sell our house. I had no idea I was about to uncover a secret that would shatter everything I believed about my marriage, my family, and my own identity. My name is Sarah Chen, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. Married for 12 years to Michael Chen, a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas. We lived in a modest 2-story house on Maple Street with faded blue shutters and a front porch that Michael kept meaning to repair, but never quite got around to. It was the kind of neighborhood where people still waved at each other from their driveways, and where the biggest drama was usually about whose turn it was to organize the annual block party. Michael was the steady type. Predictable in the best possible way. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., he'd wake up, make coffee strong enough to wake the dead, kiss my forehead, and head out to his home office in the converted spare bedroom. He worked from home 3 days a week, commuted to the downtown office the other 2. Weekends were for grocery shopping together, working in the garden, and binge-watching whatever series we'd fallen behind on during the week. We didn't have children, not by choice, exactly, but not from lack of trying either. After years of fertility treatments, specialist appointments, and the kind of hope that slowly erodes your soul, we'd quietly stopped talking about it. Michael threw himself into his work, I focused on my job as a high school librarian, and we settled into the comfortable rhythm of a couple who'd learned to find contentment in small things. Saturday morning pancakes, his terrible jokes during grocery shopping, the way he'd always leave little post-it notes on my coffee mug with messages like "You're amazing," or "Don't forget you're awesome." Looking back now, I wonder if those notes were guilt as much as love. Michael died on a Tuesday in March. Sudden cardiac arrest at 41 years old. The paramedics said it was likely a congenital heart defect that had gone undiagnosed his entire life. One moment he was in a video conference call with his team, the next moment he was on the floor of his office. I found him when I came home from work, still wearing the navy blue button-down shirt I'd ironed for him that morning. The funeral was exactly what Michael would have wanted. Simple, no fuss, just close family and friends. His parents flew in from California, my mom drove down from Dallas, and his co-workers filled the back rows of the funeral home. Everyone kept telling me how sorry they were, how unexpected it was, how Michael was such a good man. I nodded and smiled and accepted casseroles I wouldn't eat and flowers that would die within a week. But the strangest thing about the whole experience was how normal it felt. Not the grief, that was devastating, and sharp and completely overwhelming, but the logistics, the decisions, the way everything just proceeded. The bank accounts were joint. The house was in both our names. His life insurance policy listed me as the sole beneficiary. There were no surprises, No missing documents, no mysterious phone calls or unexplained debts. It was almost disappointingly straightforward for someone who'd just lost the love of their life. Almost. The first sign that something wasn't quite right. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Came 3 weeks after the funeral, when I was finally ready to start going through Michael's things. His clothes, his books, his collection of vintage computer keyboards that he insisted would be worth something someday. I was working my way through his desk drawers when I found a small brass key taped to the underside of the bottom drawer. It wasn't labeled, didn't match any lock I recognized in the house, and when I asked his parents about it during their follow-up visit, they had no idea what it could be for. Michael always was one for keeping little treasures, his mother said with a sad smile. Remember when he was 8, and he kept that box of special rocks under his bed? Turned out they were just regular gravel from the driveway, but he was convinced they were precious gems. I smiled at the memory, but something about the key bothered me. Michael wasn't sentimental about objects, he was practical, organized, almost obsessively neat. Everything in our house had a place and a purpose. This random key, hidden in his desk, didn't fit his personality at all. The second sign came a month later, when I decided to list the house for sale. The Austin housing market was hot, and my real estate agent, Patricia Valdez, assured me that our place would sell quickly, despite needing some cosmetic updates. We walked through every room, making notes about staging and minor repairs, until we got to the detached garage. "We'll definitely want to clear this out," Patricia said, pushing against the side door. "It's been locked this whole time." I frowned. "I guess so. Michael always kept it locked, said it was his workshop space." "Well, we'll need to show it to potential buyers. Do you have the key?" That's when I realized I'd never actually been inside Michael's garage. Not once in 12 years of marriage. He'd always called it his man cave, and told me it was just a messy workspace, where he tinkered with old computers and stored seasonal decorations. I'd never had any reason to go in there, and honestly I'd been perfectly happy to let him have his own space. But now, standing there with Patricia, I felt incredibly foolish. What kind of wife never sees her husband's workshop? What had I been thinking all these years? I went back to the house and searched everywhere for a garage key. His keyring only had keys for the house, his car, and his office building. I checked kitchen drawers, bedroom nightstands, even the junk drawer where we kept spare batteries and takeout menus. Nothing. That's when I remembered the brass key taped under his desk drawer. "Found it," I told Patricia the next day, holding up the small key. "Let's see what we're dealing with." Patricia smiled and made a note on her clipboard. "Perfect. I've got a showing scheduled for this afternoon, so we'll want to get in there and assess what needs to be cleared out. Honestly, most buyers love a good workshop space, so if it's reasonably organized, it might actually be a selling point." I nodded, but my stomach felt strangely tight as we walked toward the garage door. 12 years. 12 years of marriage, and I was about to see a space that Michael had kept entirely to himself. It felt like opening someone else's diary, like crossing a boundary I hadn't even known existed. Patricia was already at the door, waiting with her clipboard and measuring tape. The afternoon showing was in 3 hours. I had the key in my hand, and absolutely no idea that I was about to discover that the man I'd loved and grieved and thought I knew completely had been living an entirely different life, just 50 feet from our back door. I slipped the key into the lock. It turned easily, like it had been used recently and often. The door swung open, and everything I thought I knew about my marriage died in that moment. The smell hit me first. Not the musty, oil-stained garage smell I'd expected, but something clean and organized. Almost clinical, like a doctor's office or a laboratory. I stepped inside, Patricia close behind me, and reached for what I assumed would be a light switch. Instead, my fingers found a keypad mounted on the wall. A digital keypad with a small LED display that was blinking red. "That's unusual," Patricia murmured, peering over my shoulder. "Most garages just have regular light switches." I stared at the keypad, completely bewildered. 4 digits required. I tried the obvious combinations: our anniversary, Michael's birthday, my birthday. Nothing. The LED continued blinking red, and we remained standing in the dark. Maybe there's a manual override, Patricia suggested, pulling out her phone's flashlight. The beam of light swept across the space, and what I saw made absolutely no sense. This wasn't a garage, at least, not any garage I'd ever seen. The concrete floor was covered with industrial gray carpet. The walls were finished with drywall, and painted a clean, neutral beige. Built-in shelving units lined 3 walls, and in the center of the space sat a large, modern desk with 2 computer monitors and a leather office chair. It looked like a professional office space, the kind you'd find in a corporate building. But that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was how pristine everything looked. No dust, no cobwebs, no signs of abandonment. The desk surface was clean and organized. A coffee mug sat next to the keyboard, and when I touched it, it was still faintly warm. "Sarah," Patricia said quietly, her voice strange. "When exactly did your husband pass away?" 6 weeks ago, I replied automatically, still staring at the warm coffee mug. "March 15th. Patricia's flashlight beam moved across the desk, illuminating a desk calendar. The top page was turned to April, and there were appointments written in Michael's familiar handwriting. Today's date, April 28th, had a note that simply said, "Arrives 2 p.m. Says Sarah." Me. I felt the blood drain from my face. That's not possible. Patricia was already moving toward the back of the space, her phone light dancing across more impossibilities. "Sarah, you need to see this." I followed her, my legs feeling unsteady. In the far corner there was a small kitchenette. A mini fridge, a microwave, a coffee maker with a fresh pot that was still warm. The coffee maker's timer display showed it had been programmed to brew at 1:30 p.m. 30 minutes ago. "This doesn't make sense," I whispered. "Michael died 6 weeks ago. I've been to his funeral, I have his death certificate. I've been paying for his cremation." Patricia was quiet for a long moment, her light beam steady on the coffee maker. Then she said, very carefully, "Sarah, I think we need to call someone." "Call who?" "Call and say what? That my dead husband apparently set up his coffee maker to brew today." But even as I said it, I knew something was catastrophically wrong. The warm mug, the fresh coffee, the calendar with today's date, the keypad that clearly expected someone to know the right combination. This space had been maintained. Recently, regularly. I moved to the desk and tried to open the drawers, locked, all of them. I ran my hands under the desk surface, remembering the hidden key I'd found in the house. Nothing. "Maybe it's on a timer," Patricia suggested weakly. "The coffee maker, I mean. Maybe he set it up before he died, and it's just been running automatically. For 6 weeks, making fresh coffee every day for 6 weeks." We both knew how ridiculous that sounded. I turned in a slow circle, taking in the full space. 20 by 20 feet maybe. Completely finished, completely professional, and completely impossible. On one of the shelving units, I noticed a small framed photograph. I walked over and picked it up. It was Michael and me at our wedding, 12 years ago, both of us laughing at something off camera. But written on the frame in silver marker were the words "Cover Story." Cess and M. Chen, cover story. "Patricia," I said, my voice coming out as barely a whisper, "I think I need to sit down." She helped me to the office chair, her real estate agent composure finally cracking. "Honey, I think we need to postpone the showing. This isn't a normal situation." I laughed, and it came out sounding slightly hysterical. No, I don't think it is." That's when I noticed the blinking light on the desk phone. A landline phone that definitely hadn't been in our house phone plan. The display showed 3 missed calls, all from today, all from numbers I didn't recognize. As I stared at the phone, it started ringing. Patricia and I looked at each other. The phone rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. A mechanical voice announced, "You have reached the office of Michael Chen, security consultant. Please leave a detailed message after the tone." Security consultant. My husband, the software engineer who worked for a mid-sized tech company downtown, had a secret office where his voicemail identified him as a security consultant. The message started playing, "Mike, it's Rodriguez. We've got a situation with the Henderson account. Clients getting nervous about the delayed timeline. Call me back as soon as you get this. The clock's ticking on this one. The call ended. The office fell silent, except for the gentle hum of electronics and the soft bubbling of the coffee maker. I looked up at Patricia, who was staring at me with a mixture of concern and professional panic. Sarah, I really think we should. The phone rang again. This time, I answered it. Hello? My voice came out steady, which surprised me. Mike. Jesus, finally. Where the hell have you been? The whole Denver operation is falling apart, and Martinez is asking questions we can't answer. We need you back in the field immediately. This isn't Mike. A long pause. Who is this? This is Sarah Chen, Michael's wife. Another pause. Longer this time. His wife? Mike doesn't have a wife. The line went dead. I set the phone down with shaking hands and looked at Patricia, who had gone completely pale. Sarah, she said quietly. I don't think your husband was who you thought he was. Patricia left 20 minutes later, promising to reschedule the showing and asking me 3 times if I was going to be okay alone. I lied and said yes, because the truth was, I had no idea what okay even meant anymore. I sat in Michael's office chair, because that's what this was. An office, not a garage, staring at the phone like it might ring again and provide some reasonable explanation for everything I'd just experienced. But it remained silent, and I was left alone with the impossible fact that my dead husband apparently had clients, colleagues, and a whole professional identity I'd never heard of. Security consultant. What did that even mean? I started with the obvious things. The desk drawers were locked, but the desktop was accessible. I wiggled the mouse, and both computer monitors came to life, displaying a login screen that required a password. I tried the same combinations I'd used on the keypad outside. Nothing worked, but there were other things to examine. The shelving units held an odd collection of items, technical manuals for security systems, several books on corporate espionage, a collection of what looked like fake identification cards in a small wooden box, and 3 different cell phones, all of them powered off. The fake IDs were what made my hands start shaking again. There were 5 of them, each with Michael's photograph, but different names. Michael Rodriguez, Mike Henderson, Michael Martinez, the same names I'd heard mentioned in those phone calls. He wasn't just working with these people, he was these people. I picked up one of the phones and powered it on. It immediately started buzzing with text messages and missed call notifications. Most of the messages were in some kind of code, but a few were clear enough to understand. Where are you? Client meeting was supposed to be yesterday. Rodriguez, you missed the checkpoint. Team is worried. Mike, if you don't respond by end of day, we're implementing Protocol 7. Protocol 7. I had no idea what that meant, but it sounded ominous. I set the phone down and tried to think rationally. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe Michael had been doing some kind of consulting work on the side, and I just hadn't known about it. People kept side businesses secret from their spouses all the time, right? Maybe it wasn't as sinister as it seemed. But then I remembered the voice on the phone. Mike doesn't have a wife. Not I didn't know Mike was married, or he never mentioned a wife. He doesn't have a wife. Present tense. Like the person calling was absolutely certain that Michael Chen, security consultant, was unmarried. I opened the wooden box with the fake IDs again, and looked more carefully. Each ID had different addresses, different emergency contacts, different everything. But they all had one thing in common. None of them listed any marital status, and none of them had emergency contacts that included a Sarah Chen. In Michael Rodriguez's wallet, there was a business card for a woman named Elena Vasquez, labeled emergency contact. In Mike Henderson's, the emergency contact was listed as David Kim partner. Michael Martinez's emergency contact was simply the office with a phone number I didn't recognize. I was starting to feel like I was looking at evidence of multiple lives, multiple identities, multiple versions of my husband that had existed completely separate from our marriage. That's when I found the appointment book. It was tucked behind one of the computer monitors, a leather-bound day planner filled with Michael's handwriting. I flipped through it, looking for some kind of clue about what he'd been doing all these years. The entries were cryptic but consistent. Surveillance, Westlake Corp appeared every Tuesday for the past 3 months. Background verification, Chen Industries, showed up twice a week. Security assessment, Rodriguez Manufacturing, was scheduled for Fridays. But it was the personal entries that made my stomach drop. Every entry that corresponded to time he'd supposedly been at his regular tech job was marked differently. Days when he'd told me he was going to the downtown office were marked home base maintain cover. Days when he'd told me he was working from home were marked field work, extended absence protocol, cover. The same word that had been written on our wedding photo. I flipped to today's date. The entry read, Sarah discovers office. Containment protocol initiated. Contact handler immediately. My vision started to blur. I read the entry again, certain I was misunderstanding something. But the words were clear, written in Michael's familiar handwriting, dated 3 months ago. He had known. 3 months ago, he had known that today, April 28th, I would find this office. He had planned for this moment, but that was impossible. 3 months ago, he'd been alive. 3 months ago, we'd been having normal conversations about whether to plant tomatoes or peppers in the garden this year. 3 months ago, he'd been kissing me goodbye every morning and complaining about his boring software development projects, unless he'd already been planning to fake his death. The thought hit me like a physical blow. I stood up from the chair so quickly that it rolled backward and crashed into the shelving unit behind me. One of the cell phones fell to the floor, and when it hit, the battery popped out. Inside the battery compartment was a small piece of paper with a phone number written on it. Above the number, in Michael's handwriting, if Sarah finds this, call immediately. Tell her Operation Lazarus is in effect. Operation Lazarus, like the biblical figure who rose from the dead. I sat down on the carpeted floor and tried to process what I was looking at. The evidence was adding up to something impossible. Michael had faked his own death. But I'd been to his funeral, I'd seen his body, I'd signed papers with the funeral home, filed insurance claims, received sympathy cards from our neighbors. The death certificate was real. The cremation had been real. The grief I'd been carrying for 6 weeks was real. But somehow, so was this office, with its warm coffee and current calendar and appointment book that had predicted today's discovery. I picked up the piece of paper, with the phone number, and stared at it. Part of me wanted to call immediately, to demand answers. But another part of me was terrified of what those answers might be, because if Michael had faked his death, then everything about our marriage, everything about our life together, everything I thought I knew about the man I'd loved for 12 years was a lie. And if he was still alive somewhere, living under one of these fake identities, then who was I? Was I his wife? Or was I just another part of his cover story? I folded the paper and put it in my pocket, then I locked the office door behind me and walked back to the house, leaving the warm coffee and the blinking phones and the impossible evidence of my husband's secret life behind me. I needed time to think, and I needed to figure out whether I was ready to learn the truth about who Michael Chen really was. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at our kitchen table with a cup of tea that went cold hours ago, staring at the piece of paper with the phone number. Every time I reached for my phone to dial it, my hand would freeze. What exactly was I supposed to say? Hi, my supposedly dead husband left me your number in a secret office, where he was apparently running some kind of spy operation. By morning, I'd convinced myself that I was losing my mind. Grief did strange things to people. Maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing. Maybe the office was just Michael's hobby space, and I'd misinterpreted everything because I was desperate to feel close to him again. But when I went back outside to check, the office was still there, still real, still impossible. That's when I decided to call the only person who might have answers, Michael's best friend from college, David Kim. David had been Michael's roommate at UT Austin, his best man at our wedding, and the person Michael turned to whenever he needed advice about anything serious. If anyone knew about Michael's secret life, it would be David. I found his number in my phone and called before I could change my mind. Sarah. David's voice was surprised but warm. How are you holding up? I've been meaning to call, but I wasn't sure if you wanted space or company. David, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. A pause. Okay, sure, what's going on? Did Michael ever mention doing security consulting work, or using fake names, or having some kind of job that wasn't software development? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. David, are you there? Sarah. His voice was different now. Careful, where are you right now? I'm at home, in the kitchen. Why? I need you to listen to me very carefully. Don't have this conversation on your home phone or your regular cell phone. Do you have another phone you can use? My heart started racing. What? Why? David, what's going on? Sarah, meet me at the Central Market on North Lamar in 1 hour, the coffee shop section. And Sarah, don't tell anyone where you're going. He hung up. I stared at my phone, completely bewildered. David Kim was an accountant. A mild-mannered, soft-spoken accountant who collected vintage vinyl records and made craft beer in his garage. He was not the kind of person who gave cryptic instructions about secure phone lines and secret meetings, unless he was part of whatever Michael had been involved in. The drive to Central Market took 25 minutes, during which I questioned every assumption I'd ever made about everyone in my life. Was David really an accountant? Were Michael's parents actually his parents? Was our mailman part of some elaborate conspiracy? By the time I found David sitting in the coffee shop corner, clutching a large espresso and checking his watch nervously, I was ready for answers. Thank God, he said when he saw me. Sit down, we don't have much time. Time for what? David, you're scaring me. He looked around the coffee shop, checking to see who might be listening, then leaned forward and spoke quietly. Sarah, how much do you know about what Michael really did for work? Apparently nothing. I found his office yesterday. His real office, with fake IDs and appointment books and people calling him by different names. David, what was my husband involved in? David closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. This is so much worse than I thought it would be. What's worse? What are you talking about? Michael worked for a private intelligence firm, corporate espionage, background investigations, security assessments for high-level clients. The kind of work where you can't tell anyone, not even your family, what you really do. I felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. You knew, all this time, you knew he was lying to me. It wasn't lying exactly. It was protecting you, Sarah, the kind of people Michael dealt with, the kind of information he had access to. If the wrong people knew about you, knew that you existed, you could have been in serious danger. So our entire marriage was fake. I was just his cover story? David's expression softened. No, Sarah, no. Michael loved you, really loved you. The marriage was real, the feelings were real, the job was just compartmentalized. Then why are you acting like we're in some kind of spy movie? Why all the secrecy about phone calls and meeting locations? David was quiet for a moment, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small device that looked like a garage door opener. Because 3 days ago, someone broke into Michael's real office downtown. They took his computer, his files, everything. And yesterday, someone broke into my apartment. My blood went cold. What? They didn't take anything valuable. Just went through my papers, my computer. They were looking for something specific. And Sarah, I think they're looking for you. Why would anyone be looking for me? I don't know anything about Michael's work. I didn't even know it existed until yesterday. But they don't know that. All they know is that Michael had a wife, and now Michael is dead, and his wife might have access to whatever information he left behind. I thought about the office, the appointment books, the phones full of coded messages. David, there's something else. Michael's office, it looked like someone had been using it recently. The coffee was warm, the calendar was current, and there was an appointment book that predicted I would find the office yesterday. David went very still. That's impossible. Sarah, I was at Michael's funeral. I helped you pick out the flowers. I know, but David, what if— I lowered my voice to barely a whisper. What if Michael isn't really dead? David stared at me for a long moment, then pressed the device in his hand. It beeped softly. What was that? Signal jammer. Now we can talk freely. He leaned closer. Sarah, 6 months before Michael died, he came to me with a hypothetical question. He asked me what I would do if I needed to disappear completely, to start over with a new identity, but I needed to protect someone I loved from getting hurt in the process. What did you tell him? I told him I'd fake my own death. David drove me to an address in East Austin that I'd never seen before. A small, unmarked building wedged between a taco truck and a vintage clothing store. The kind of place you'd walk past 1,000 times without noticing. This is where Michael really worked, David said, pulling into a parking spot across the street. Phoenix Group. Private intelligence and corporate security. I stared at the building. It looked like nothing special, just beige brick and tinted windows with a small sign that read Phoenix Consulting Services. How long have you known? I asked. Since college. Michael recruited me during our senior year, not for field work. I was always the tech support guy, database management, financial tracking, background research, the boring stuff that happens behind the scenes. So when I thought you were just his friend, you were actually his colleague. Both, David said quietly. Sarah, everything about your friendship with me was real. The craft beer, the vinyl records, the terrible movie nights at your house, that was all genuine. The only thing I kept secret was the work. I looked at him, trying to reconcile the David I'd known for 12 years with this person, who was apparently part of Michael's spy operation. Is anyone in my life actually who they say they are? Your mom is definitely just a retired teacher from Dallas. I can vouch for that. Despite everything, I almost smiled. How reassuring. David's expression grew serious. Sarah, before we go in there, I need you to understand something. Once you walk through that door, there's no going back. Right now, you can still choose to walk away, go home, sell the house, move somewhere new, start over, live a normal life, but Michael might still be alive. He might be, or he might actually be dead, and this might be a very dangerous wild goose chase that gets you killed. I thought about that for a moment. 6 weeks ago, my biggest worry had been whether to plant tomatoes or peppers. Now I was sitting outside a secret intelligence office, contemplating whether my dead husband had faked his death to protect me from people who apparently wanted to hurt me. If I walk away, will I ever know the truth? Probably not. And if I don't walk away, then we find out what really happened to Michael, and we deal with whatever consequences come with that knowledge. I looked at the building again. Such an ordinary-looking place to house such extraordinary secrets. David, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think he's alive? David was quiet for a long moment. I think Michael Chen was the most resourceful, careful, paranoid person I've ever known. If anyone could successfully fake their own death and disappear, it would be him. But the people who broke into his office, the people who are looking for information, they're not the kind of people you run from forever. Eventually they find you. I thought about the warm coffee in the office, the appointment book that had predicted my discovery, the phone calls asking where Michael was. Someone out there believed he was still alive and expected him to be available for work. I need to know, I said finally. David, I've been grieving a man who might not be dead. I've been mourning a marriage that might have been fake. I've been living in a house full of lies, and I can't do it anymore. I need to know the truth, whatever it is. David nodded slowly. Okay, but Sarah, once we walk in there, you're going to learn things about Michael that might make you wish he really was dead.
Ew.
What do you mean? I mean the work Michael did, the cases he worked on, the people he investigated. Some of it wasn't exactly legal, and some of the clients Phoenix Group works for aren't exactly the good guys. I felt a chill run down my spine. Are you saying Michael was a criminal? I'm saying the line between law enforcement and corporate espionage gets very blurry when you're dealing with international business interests and national security issues. Michael operated in gray areas that most people don't even know exist. And you think I might not like what I find out about him. I think you might discover that the man you married was more complicated than either of us realized. I took a deep breath and looked at the building one more time. Everything about my life had already been turned upside down. My marriage, my understanding of my husband, my sense of safety and normalcy, all of it was already destroyed. What was left to lose? Let's go, I said, reaching for the door handle. David caught my arm. Sarah, are you sure? I thought about the appointment book entry. Sarah discovers office. Containment protocol initiated. Michael had known this moment would come. He had planned for it. He had wanted me to find that office, to find those clues, to end up exactly where I was right now. Whatever game he'd been playing, I was already a part of it whether I wanted to be or not. I'm sure, I said, and got out of the car. We walked across the street together, and David opened the door to Phoenix Group with a key I hadn't seen him produce. The receptionist looked up as we entered, took one look at me, and immediately reached for her phone. "Miss Chen," she said, before I could introduce myself, "we've been expecting you." The receptionist led us down a hallway lined with generic office art to a conference room where a woman in her 50s was waiting. She had silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, sharp blue eyes, and the kind of posture that suggested she was used to being the smartest person in the room. "Sarah Chen," she said, standing up and extending her hand. "I'm Victoria Walsh, Director of Operations at Phoenix Group. Please, sit down." I shook her hand and took a seat across from her at the polished conference table. David sat beside me, looking more nervous than I'd ever seen him. "Miss Chen, I want to start by offering my condolences on your husband's death. Michael was one of our most valued operatives, and his loss has been complicated." "Complicated how?" Victoria opened a manila folder and slid a photograph across the table. It was a surveillance photo of Michael, taken from a distance, showing him entering what looked like a hotel. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 days ago. "Complicated because we're not entirely sure he's actually dead." My heart stopped. There it was. The confirmation I'd been hoping for, and dreading in equal measure. "You think he faked his death?" "We know he faked his death," Victoria corrected. "The question is why, and whether he's gone rogue or if this is part of a deeper operation we weren't briefed on." I stared at the photograph. It was definitely Michael, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, carrying a briefcase I'd never seen. He looked tired, but very much alive. "When was this taken?" "Monday, in Denver. He was meeting with a client who thought he was dead." David leaned forward. "What client?" Victoria hesitated, then pulled out another document. "Marcus Holloway, CEO of Holloway Industries. He hired Phoenix Group 6 months ago to investigate suspected embezzlement within his company. Michael was the lead investigator, and he's still working the case, even though he's supposed to be dead." Apparently, Mr. Holloway called our office yesterday morning, very upset. He said Michael had missed a scheduled meeting, and when he tried to call Michael's work phone, he got a voicemail saying Michael Chen was deceased. I felt like I was trying to put together a puzzle where half the pieces kept changing shape. "So Michael faked his death, but he's still working for you?" "Not for us," Victoria said firmly. "We had no knowledge of this operation. As far as Phoenix Group was concerned, Michael Chen died 6 weeks ago of a heart attack. We attended his funeral, we filed the necessary paperwork, we reassigned his cases to other operatives. Then who is he working for?" Victoria's expression darkened. "That's what we need to find out. Because the only way Michael could have continued working the Holloway case is if he had access to our databases, our client files, our operational protocols. Someone with high-level clearance has been helping him." David was looking pale. "You think there's a mole in Phoenix Group?" "I think Michael Chen is the mole in Phoenix Group." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You're saying my husband is a traitor." "I'm saying your husband stole classified information from his employer, faked his own death to avoid accountability, and is now operating as a freelance agent, using company resources and client relationships." Victoria's voice was calm but cold. "That's the definition of corporate espionage." I couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, too warm. But why? Why would he do that? Victoria slid another document across the table. This one was a bank statement showing an account I'd never seen before. The account holder was listed as M Holdings, LLC, and the balance showed $2.3 million. "Money," Victoria said simply. 6 months ago, Michael started asking questions about early retirement, about what would happen to his pension if he left the company. Our HR department noted it as unusual, since Michael had always been one of our most dedicated long-term employees. "You think he was planning this for 6 months? I think he was planning this for longer than that." "Sarah," How much do you know about your husband's financial situation? We have joint checking and savings accounts, his 401k. The house, nothing unusual. What about life insurance? He had a policy through work, $500,000. Victoria nodded grimly. Which you collected 6 weeks ago, I assume. Yes, but I haven't touched the money. It's just sitting in my savings account. That's good, because you're going to need to return it, along with any other insurance payouts, death benefits, or survivor benefits you may have received. David looked confused. Why? Because insurance fraud is a federal crime, Victoria said, looking directly at me. And right now, Sarah, you're an accessory to that crime whether you knew about it or not. I felt the blood drain from my face. I didn't know anything about this. I thought my husband was dead. I grieved for him. I believe you, but the FBI won't care about your intentions when they discover that you collected $500,000 in death benefits for a man who's currently walking around Denver using stolen corporate intelligence to make money. The FBI. Victoria closed the folder. Sarah, Michael didn't just betray Phoenix Group, he betrayed his clients, his colleagues, and his country. Some of the information he had access to involves national security contracts. This is bigger than corporate espionage now. I looked at David, hoping he could somehow make this make sense, but he looked as shocked as I felt. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. We want you to help us find him, Victoria said. Because right now you might be the only person who can. Victoria opened a second folder, thicker than the first, and spread its contents across the conference table like a dealer laying out cards. Documents, photographs, financial records, and what looked like intercepted communications covered the polished surface. This is everything we've discovered since we started investigating Michael's activities, she said. And Sarah, I need you to understand, what you found in his garage office was just the tip of the iceberg. The first document she pointed to was a list of client names, many of which I recognized from news headlines. Fortune 500 companies, government contractors, even a few foreign corporations. Michael had access to confidential information about all of these organizations, background checks on their executives, security assessments of their facilities, financial investigations into their competitors. He knew where every body was buried. David picked up one of the photographs. It showed Michael meeting with a man in an expensive suit, outside what looked like a European hotel. Who is this? Viktor Petrov. Russian businessman with suspected ties to organized crime. This photo was taken in Prague 2 months ago, during the time Michael was supposedly conducting a routine security assessment for a tech startup in Austin. I felt sick. You're saying he was working for criminals. We're saying he was selling information to the highest bidder, regardless of who they were. Victoria pulled out another set of documents. Bank records showing payments from shell companies, linked to Petrov's organization. $50,000 here, $100,000 there, all deposited into that MR Holdings account you saw earlier. The scope of Michael's betrayal was becoming clearer, and it was worse than I'd imagined. This wasn't just about faking his death or stealing from his employer, this was about selling American corporate secrets to foreign criminals. But why? I asked. We weren't struggling financially. We had everything we needed. Victoria's expression softened slightly. Sarah, did Michael ever talk to you about feeling undervalued at work? About thinking he deserved more recognition or compensation? I thought back to conversations we'd had over dinner, late-night talks when he seemed frustrated or distant. He mentioned that he felt like Phoenix Group didn't appreciate his contributions. He said he was doing all the important work while other people got the credit and the promotions. That's consistent with what we're seeing in his communications. Victoria showed me a series of encrypted messages that had been decoded. He was angry, resentful, and apparently convinced that Phoenix Group was exploiting him. David was studying the financial records. $2.3 million. That's a lot of resentment. And it gets worse, Victoria said, pulling out a laptop and opening it. We've been monitoring some of the communication channels Michael used. He's not working alone. The laptop screen showed what looked like a secure messaging system. Victoria scrolled through a conversation between usernames Lazarus, presumably Michael, and someone called Shepard. Shepard status report on Holloway extraction. Lazarus, package secured. Client satisfied. Moving to phase 2. Shepard excellent. Denver operation successful. Lazarus. Minor complications with Phoenix Group asking questions. May need to accelerate timeline. Shepard understood. Prague contact confirms next payment ready. $500K upon delivery of Sterling files. I stared at the screen. Sterling files? Victoria's face went grim. Sterling Defense is one of our biggest government clients. They develop cybersecurity systems for military applications. If Michael has access to their files, he could sell military secrets to foreign governments. David finished. Exactly. And based on this conversation, he's planning to do exactly that. The room fell silent except for the humming of the air conditioning. I tried to process what I was learning about the man I'd been married to for 12 years. The Michael who brought me coffee in bed on Sunday mornings, who helped me grade papers when I was overwhelmed at work, who cried during movies about dogs. That man was apparently a traitor selling military secrets to Russian criminals. There's something else, Victoria said quietly. She pulled out one final document, and when I saw what it was, my blood turned to ice. It was a life insurance application, but not for the policy I knew about. This one was for $2 million, taken out just 3 months before Michael's supposed death, and the beneficiary wasn't me. The beneficiary was listed as Elena Rodriguez, domestic partner. Who is Elena Rodriguez? I whispered. We believe she's Michael's real partner. The person he's been working with. The person he faked his death to be with. Sarah, we think your entire marriage was part of his cover identity. I felt like I was drowning. You're telling me that not only is my husband a traitor, but he was also living with another woman. Based on the evidence, yes. Elena Rodriguez has been receiving payments from the same shell companies that were paying Michael. She has an apartment in Denver under a false identity. And according to hotel records, she was with Michael when that surveillance photo was taken. David reached over and put his hand on my shoulder, but I barely felt it. Everything I thought I knew about my life was collapsing around me. Sarah, Victoria said gently, I know this is overwhelming, but we need your help to stop him before he sells those Sterling Defense files. If that information ends up in the wrong hands, it could compromise national security operations around the world. I looked up at her, feeling empty and hollow. What exactly do you want me to do? We want you to call him. Absolutely not, I said, standing up from the conference table. I'm not calling him. I'm not helping you trap him. I'm going home. Victoria remained calm. Sarah, I understand this is difficult. Difficult. I laughed, and it came out sharp and bitter. My husband faked his death, stole government secrets, has another woman, and apparently our entire marriage was fake. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it. Wasn't begin to cover it, which is exactly why you're the only person who can reach him. Victoria pressed. He trusts you. Or at least he trusted the version of himself that was married to you. I was halfway to the door when it opened, and a young woman walked in. She looked to be in her late 20s, with dark hair and tired eyes, wearing jeans and a Phoenix Group security badge. Sorry I'm late, she said to Victoria, then stopped when she saw me. You must be Sarah. Sarah, this is Agent Martinez with the FBI, Victoria said. She's been tracking Michael's activities from the federal side. My stomach dropped. The FBI is already involved. Agent Martinez sat down and opened her own folder. Mrs. Chen, we've been investigating your husband for 3 weeks. The Sterling Defense breach triggered automatic national security protocols. I thought you said he was planning to sell those files, not that he'd already stolen them. We said he was planning to sell them. Victoria corrected. He stole them 6 weeks ago, the day before his supposed death. Agent Martinez pulled out a timeline chart. March 14th, Michael Chen accesses Sterling Defense files through Phoenix Group's secure system. March 15th, Michael Chen suffers fatal heart attack. March 16th. Sterling Defense reports that someone attempted to breach their backup security systems using stolen credentials. He tried to steal more files after he was already dead, David asked. No. Agent Martinez said. Someone else tried to steal more files using his access codes. Someone who knew exactly which files to target and how to navigate Sterling's security systems. I felt a chill run down my spine. Elena Rodriguez. That's our working theory, Sarah. We believe your husband trained someone to continue his work after his death. He didn't just fake his death to escape consequences. He faked it to provide himself with the perfect alibi while his partner completed the operation. Agent Martinez showed me another photograph. This one was a driver's license photo of a woman with dark hair and sharp features. She was pretty in a severe way, with the kind of intelligence in her eyes that suggested she was always calculating something. Elena Rodriguez, age 29, born in Miami. Computer science degree from MIT, former NSA contractor, until she was terminated for unauthorized access to classified systems 3 years ago. I stared at the photo. This was the woman my husband had chosen over me, not just for romance, but for partnership in treason. How long were they together? I asked quietly. Based on financial records and communication intercepts, at least 2 years, Agent Martinez said. But Sarah, there's something else. Elena Rodriguez isn't just Michael's partner, she's his handler. What does that mean? Victoria leaned forward. It means she's the one giving him orders. The shepherd in those encrypted messages. Michael isn't the mastermind of this operation, he's the asset being controlled by someone else. The room spun slightly. You're saying this woman manipulated my husband into becoming a traitor? We're saying this woman recruited your husband to steal specific information for specific clients, Agent Martinez corrected. Michael may have started working with her because he felt undervalued at Phoenix Group, but what he became was a professional spy working for foreign interests. David had been quiet through most of this exchange, but now he spoke up. If Elena is the one running the operation, why do you need Sarah to call Michael? Why not go after Elena directly? Because we can't find her, Agent Martinez admitted. Elena Rodriguez disappeared the same day Michael supposedly died. No credit card activity, no phone usage, no digital footprint. It's like she evaporated. But Michael has been spotted, Victoria added. Which means either they've separated, or she's nearby and being much more careful than he is. Agent Martinez turned to me. Sarah, we've analyzed Michael's communication patterns, his psychological profile, everything. If anyone can get him to reveal Elena's location, it's you. What makes you so sure? Because despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the fake death, Michael left you clues. The office, the appointment book, the phone number. He wanted you to find out the truth. I thought about the entry in the appointment book. Sarah discovers office. Containment protocol initiated. Maybe it wasn't just a prediction. Maybe it was an invitation. You think he wants to be caught? We think he wants to be saved, Victoria said quietly. Sarah, Elena Rodriguez is dangerous. She's killed before 2 former associates who tried to leave her organization. If Michael is having second thoughts about what they're doing, he's in serious danger. I looked at the photo of Elena again, trying to imagine this woman controlling my husband, manipulating him into betraying everything he'd once stood for. If I call him, I said slowly, what exactly am I supposed to say? Agent Martinez pulled out a sophisticated-looking device that resembled a small tablet. This is a secure communication system, encrypted, untraceable. We've loaded it with Michael's contact information from his Phoenix Group files. How do you know he'll answer? Because 3 days ago, someone tried to access your bank account, Victoria said quietly. The same account where you deposited his life insurance money. My blood went cold. What? Failed login attempts from Denver. Someone was trying to transfer the $500,000 to an offshore account. Sarah, either Michael is desperate for money, or Elena is forcing him to clean up loose ends. Agent Martinez nodded grimly. We think Elena's organization is under pressure. They promised the Sterling Defense files to their buyers, but the additional security measures put in place after Michael's supposed death have made the final transfer much more difficult. So they need the insurance money to buy more time with their clients, David said. Or to disappear permanently if the operation fails, Victoria added. Either way, Michael reaching out to access that account tells us he's thinking about you, about the life he left behind. I stared at the communication device. What if this is all wrong? What if calling him just puts him in more danger? Agent Martinez's expression softened. Sarah, yesterday we intercepted a communication between Elena and her handler. Yes, she has someone above her too. Elena reported that the asset is becoming unreliable, and that contingency measures may be necessary. Contingency measures, in intelligence operations, that usually means elimination of compromised personnel. The room fell silent. Despite everything Michael had done, despite the lies and betrayal, the thought of him being murdered by his own partners made me feel sick. Victoria opened another file. There's something else we need to show you. We've been analyzing the timing of Michael's activities, trying to understand when he first became involved with Elena's organization. She spread out a series of documents, credit card statements, travel records, communication logs. 2.5 years ago, Michael started making regular trips to Miami, always on weekends, always using personal time, never through Phoenix Group travel arrangements. I recognized some of the dates. Those were the weekends he said he was visiting his college friend in Houston. We checked. There is no college friend in Houston, but there are hotel records showing Michael Chen checking into the Fontainebleau in Miami Beach every month for 8 months. Agent Martinez continued the timeline. 9 months after the Miami trip started, Michael began asking unusual questions at work. Technical questions about Sterling Defense's security protocols, questions that weren't related to any case he was assigned to. Elena was recruiting him slowly, I realized. Building a relationship first, then gradually involving him in her operation. That's the pattern we see with professional intelligence officers, Agent Martinez confirmed. But Sarah, here's what's interesting. During that same period, Michael was also doing something else. She pulled out another set of documents, bank records showing regular deposits into a separate account I'd never seen before. Every month concurrent with the Miami trips, Michael was depositing money into a savings account under your name, an account you never knew existed. I stared at the statements. The account had nearly $150,000 in it. Why would he do that? Victoria's voice was gentle. We think he was trying to protect you, creating a financial safety net in case something went wrong, or in case he needed to disappear and wanted to make sure you were taken care of, Agent Martinez added. David was studying the bank statements. Look at the deposit amounts. They correspond to the payments he was receiving from Elena's shell companies. He was essentially giving you half of everything he made from the espionage operation. The implications hit me like a physical blow. He was using blood money to set up a college fund for children we don't have, and a retirement account I didn't know about. Sarah, Victoria said carefully, we think Michael was planning to eventually tell you everything. The office, the appointment book predicting your discovery, the secret account in your name, it all suggests he intended for you to find out about his activities. But he died before he could tell me. Or before Elena would let him tell you, Agent Martinez corrected. Sarah, we've been monitoring Elena's communications with her organization. 3 weeks before Michael's supposed death, she reported that the asset was showing signs of emotional compromise and may require closer supervision. I felt pieces clicking into place in my mind. You think Elena found out Michael was planning to come clean to me? We think Elena orchestrated Michael's death, Victoria said bluntly. Not to kill him, but to separate him from his old life completely. To force him to choose between you and the operation. And he chose the operation. Agent Martinez leaned forward. Did he? Because if Michael really chose Elena and the espionage work, why would he leave you clues? Why would he set up that bank account? Why would he risk exposing himself by trying to access your insurance money? I looked at the communication device again. You think he's trying to get back to me? We think he's trapped, Victoria said, and we think you might be the only person who can help him escape. Agent Martinez's phone buzzed, and her expression darkened as she read the message. We need to move this conversation. Now. What's wrong? Victoria asked. Surveillance just reported a van that's been parked outside this building for the past hour. 2 occupants, both using communication equipment. Sarah, did anyone follow you here? My heart started racing. I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't know what to look for. David had gone pale. Victoria, my apartment was broken into yesterday. What if they've been watching me? Agent Martinez was already moving, gathering documents and shoving them back into folders. We're evacuating through the back exit. Sarah, leave everything except the communication device. Who's in the van? I asked, clutching the secure tablet as Victoria guided me toward a rear door I hadn't noticed before. We don't know yet, but Elena's organization has a history of aggressive surveillance, Agent Martinez said, speaking into her radio as we moved. Priority 1 is getting Sarah to a secure location. We emerged into an alley behind the building, where an unmarked sedan was already waiting with its engine running. Agent Martinez pushed me into the back seat next to David, while Victoria took the front passenger seat. Drive, Agent Martinez told the driver, scanning the mirrors as we pulled away. Take the long route to Safe House Charlie. As we drove through Austin traffic, my phone started ringing. Unknown number. Don't answer it, Agent Martinez said immediately. But what if it's Michael? If it's Michael, he'll call the secure device. If it's Elena's people, answering will confirm your location. The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. Same unknown number. They're persistent, David muttered. Agent Martinez was monitoring something on her tablet. Sarah, I need you to listen carefully. In the past 2 hours, since you walked into the Phoenix Group building, there have been attempted break-ins at your house, David's apartment, and your mother's house in Dallas. My mother. I felt panic rising in my chest. Is she okay? She's fine. We had protective surveillance in place as a precaution. But Sarah, this level of coordinated activity means Elena's organization sees you as a serious threat. Victoria turned around from the front seat. Which also means they believe you have information they need. They wouldn't risk this much exposure unless they were desperate. My phone rang again. Different number this time. Still don't answer it, Agent Martinez warned. But the secure communication device Victoria had given me was also beeping now. An incoming message. That one you can check, Agent Martinez said. I looked at the screen. A single line of text. Sarah, it's Michael. We need to talk, alone. My hands were shaking. It's him. Agent Martinez leaned over to look at the device. Could be. Could also be Elena using his credentials. How can we tell? Ask him something only Michael would know, David suggested. I typed back, prove it's you. The response came immediately. You cried during our first dance at our wedding, because I stepped on your dress. You told everyone it was tears of joy, but you whispered to me that you were embarrassed and wanted to disappear. I told you that you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, even with a torn dress. I started crying. No one else could have known that. I'd never told anyone about the dress, or what Michael had said to comfort me. It's him, I whispered. Agent Martinez looked skeptical. Sarah, intelligence operatives are trained to extract personal information from their targets. Elena could have gotten that story from Michael weeks ago. But the device was beeping again. Another message. Sarah, I know you don't trust me anymore. I know you think our marriage was fake. It wasn't. The work was fake, the identities were fake, but what I felt for you was real. I need you to know that before this is over. And then they're coming for me tonight. Elena found out I tried to access your account. She thinks I'm going to expose the operation. Sarah, I'm scared. Victoria was monitoring radio chatter on her own device. The van that was outside Phoenix Group is mobile. They're following a route that would take them towards Sarah's neighborhood. They're going to my house. Or they're creating a diversion while other teams move to different locations, Agent Martinez said. Sarah, Elena's organization operates like a military unit. Coordinated attacks, multiple targets, contingency plans for every scenario. The secure device beeped again. Sarah, are you there? Please. I know I don't deserve your help, but I don't have anyone else. Elena has people watching every exit from the hotel. If I try to leave alone, they'll kill me. Agent Martinez looked at the message and frowned. If this is really Michael, and he's really trapped, this could be our best chance to get him and gather evidence against Elena's operation. But if it's a trap, then we're walking into a situation designed to capture or eliminate you, Victoria finished. The device beeped one more time. I'm at the Driscoll Hotel, room 1247. Sarah, I need to see you face to face. I need to explain everything, and I need to give you something that Elena can never be allowed to have. I looked at Agent Martinez. What could he have that's so important? Information about Elena's other operations, client lists, financial records, the kind of evidence that could take down her entire network. Or, Victoria said grimly, it could be Elena using Michael as bait to draw you into a trap where she can eliminate the only person who might be able to identify her. My phone was ringing again. I looked at the screen, and this time I recognized the number. It was my mother's landline in Dallas. I have to answer this, I said. Agent Martinez tried to stop me, but I was already pressing the accept button. Mom, Sarah, honey? My mother's voice was tight with fear. There are men at my house asking about you. They say they're FBI agents, but they don't look like FBI agents. Sarah, I'm scared. Mom, listen to me very carefully, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Those are not FBI agents. Lock yourself in your bedroom and call 911 right now. Sarah, what's going on? What have you gotten yourself into? Agent Martinez was already coordinating with someone on her radio, dispatching real federal agents to my mother's house in Dallas. But I could hear voices in the background of my mother's call, men talking to each other, getting closer to wherever she was hiding. Mom, are you locked in your room? Yes, but Sarah, they're trying to talk to me through the door. They're saying they just want to ask me some questions about Michael's work. They sound so polite. Do not open that door. Do not talk to them. Just wait for the real police to arrive. I could hear my mother's television in the background, then the sound of her bedroom door being tested. Someone was trying the handle. Sarah, my mother whispered, I think they're coming in anyway. The line went dead. I stared at my phone in horror, then looked at Agent Martinez. They're inside her house. Dallas PD is 3 minutes out, Agent Martinez said, but her expression was grim. Sarah, Elena's people are escalating because they're desperate. The longer this situation continues, the more dangerous it becomes for everyone connected to you. Victoria was studying the secure communication device, which had received several more messages from Michael. He's getting more frantic. Look at these. The messages were increasingly urgent. Sarah, where are you? Elena just left with 2 men. I think they went to find you. I can hear them talking in the hallway. They know you've been to Phoenix Group. Sarah, they're planning something for tonight. I heard Elena on the phone talking about permanent solutions and cleaning up loose ends. And then the one that made my blood run cold. They have photos of your mother's house. Sarah, they know where she lives. I felt like I was going to be sick. This is my fault. I involved her in this by just being her daughter. David put his hand on my shoulder. Sarah, this isn't your fault. This is what Elena's organization does. They target families to pressure their primary targets. Agent Martinez radio crackled with an update from Dallas. Federal agents on scene at the Dallas location. Subjects fled before law enforcement arrival. Mother is safe but shaken. Relief flooded through me, but it was quickly replaced by a different kind of fear. If Elena's people had fled from my mother's house, where were they going next? The secure device beeped with another message from Michael. Sarah, I just overheard Elena talking to someone called the director. She said, if we can't use the wife to control the asset, we'll have to eliminate both of them. Sarah, run. Get as far away from this as you can. But even as I read Michael's warning, I realized something that made everything worse. I looked at Agent Martinez and Victoria, both of whom were monitoring their respective communication channels, coordinating the response to protect my mother. How did Elena's people know where my mother lives? I asked quietly. Victoria looked up from her tablet. What do you mean? I mean my mother's address isn't in any of Michael's Phoenix Group files, is it? It's not in our joint bank accounts or insurance papers. We always visited her. She never visited us. How would Elena know where to find her? Agent Martinez and Victoria exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. Sarah, Agent Martinez said carefully. Elena's organization has been monitoring you for longer than we initially thought. How long? Victoria pulled out another file, one I hadn't seen before. We found evidence of surveillance on you dating back 8 months. Phone records, credit card monitoring, even tracking your movements through your car's GPS system. 8 months. But Michael supposedly only started working with Elena 2 years ago. We think Elena identified you as a potential vulnerability in Michael's psychology long before she recruited him. Agent Martinez explained. She studied your relationship, your habits, your family connections. She knew exactly which pressure points to use if she ever needed to control Michael through you. The implications hit me like a sledgehammer. You're saying she manipulated him into marrying me. We're saying she may have manipulated him into staying married to you, Victoria corrected. Sarah, we found communication records between Elena and Michael from 18 months ago. He was trying to leave the operation. He wanted out. What changed his mind? Agent Martinez hesitated, then showed me a transcript of an intercepted communication. Elena, the wife is a useful asset. Maintains your cover, provides emotional stability, keeps you grounded in your civilian identity. Eliminating that connection would be strategically disadvantageous. Michael, Sarah isn't part of this. She's innocent. Elena, exactly. Which is why she's valuable. Innocent people make excellent leverage when necessary. I felt the world tilt sideways. She threatened me. 1.5 years ago, she threatened to hurt me if Michael tried to leave. And Michael stayed in the operation to protect you, David said quietly. But then, why fake his death? Why leave me if he was trying to protect me? Victoria's expression was grim. Because Elena escalated the threat. Sarah, 3 weeks before Michael's supposed death, Elena sent him surveillance photos of you. At work, at the grocery store, at your mother's house. The message was clear: we can reach you anytime, anywhere. The secure device beeped one final time. Sarah, Elena just came back. She knows you're with federal agents. She's giving me an ultimatum: bring you to her by midnight, or she starts killing people close to you. Starting with David. I looked at David, who had gone completely pale. She has surveillance on all of us, I whispered. She knows exactly where we are right now. We're not negotiating with terrorists, Agent Martinez said firmly, but I could see the worry in her eyes as she looked at David. Then how do we stop her? I asked. Elena has been planning this for years. She knows everything about us, about our habits, our weaknesses. What do we know about her? Victoria was already pulling out files, more than you might think. While you've been processing the personal revelations, we've been building a comprehensive profile. She spread out a new collection of documents across the back seat of the car: financial records, surveillance photos, communication intercepts, and what looked like architectural blueprints. Elena Rodriguez isn't just a rogue NSA contractor, Victoria explained. She's the operational head of an international espionage network called the Meridian Group. They've been selling classified information to foreign governments for at least 5 years. Agent Martinez added, we've identified 12 other assets, like Michael Ennis' professionals, who were recruited, manipulated, and controlled using personal leverage. 3 of them are dead, officially ruled as accidents or suicides. I studied the photos of Elena meeting with various people in different cities. How many people work for her? Direct operatives, maybe 20. But the Meridian Group has connections to organized crime, corrupt government officials, and corporate executives in 8 countries. When Elena makes a threat, she has the resources to follow through. David was examining the architectural blueprints. What building is this? The Driscoll Hotel, Victoria said. Every floor, every exit, every security camera. We've been studying it since Michael's message. You're planning to go in after him? Agent Martinez shook her head. We're planning to be ready if you decide to go in after him. Sarah, this is still your choice, but if you choose to meet with Michael, you won't be going in blind. Victoria pointed to the hotel blueprints. Elena has at least 4 operatives positioned around the building, 2 in the lobby posing as guests, 1 in a maintenance uniform monitoring service corridors, and 1 in a vehicle across the street. How do you know all this? Because we've had the hotel under surveillance since Michael checked in yesterday, Agent Martinez admitted. We've been hoping Elena would show herself. And has she? Not visually confirmed, but we've detected electronic surveillance equipment on floors 12 and 13. Someone is monitoring communications and possibly recording everything that happens in and around Michael's room. I looked at the complete picture they'd assembled. Photos, financial records, organizational charts, building layouts. For the first time since this started, I felt like we might actually have a chance. What exactly are you proposing? I asked. Victoria's expression was serious. We think Elena made a mistake by threatening David. She's forcing a confrontation before she's fully prepared. If we move tonight, we might catch the Meridian group off guard. But Michael is still trapped in that hotel room, which is why Agent Martinez said slowly, we need you to keep that midnight appointment. But this time Elena won't be the only one with backup. The secure device beeped with one more message from Michael. Sarah, Elena says she'll let me talk to you alone first. Room 1247, 11 p.m. She promises safe passage if you come alone. Don't trust her, but please, I need to see you one last time. I looked at the clock on the car's dashboard. It was 9:30 p.m. Do we have enough time to prepare? We'll have to, Agent Martinez said grimly. Because ready or not, we're running out of options. At 10:15 p.m., everything went wrong. Agent Martinez's radio exploded with chatter. As we sat in the surveillance van 3 blocks from the Driscoll Hotel, all units, we have multiple black SUVs converging on the target location. Repeat, Elena's people are mobilizing earlier than expected. Through the van's tinted windows, I could see unmarked vehicles moving through downtown Austin with military precision. This wasn't the careful, subtle surveillance we'd been tracking all day. This was an invasion. They know we're here, Victoria said, monitoring electronic communications on her tablet. Someone tipped them off about our surveillance. Agent Martinez was coordinating with federal teams positioned around the hotel, but the reports coming back were alarming. Team 3 reports armed personnel entering through the hotel's service entrance. Team 1 has visual on Elena Rodriguez entering the main lobby. Elena's actually there? I asked, my heart racing. First time we've had visual confirmation in 3 weeks, Agent Martinez confirmed. Sarah, this changes everything. If Elena is personally overseeing this operation, it means she considers you a major threat. My phone rang, not the secure device, my regular cell phone. The caller ID showed Michael's old work number, the one that had been disconnected when he supposedly died. Answer it, Agent Martinez said. We're recording everything. Hello? Sarah, it's Michael. His voice was strained, different than in the messages. Listen carefully. Elena moved up the timeline. She wants you here now, not at 11. Michael, are you okay? You sound, I'm fine. But Sarah, something's wrong. Elena's people aren't just watching the hotel anymore. They're taking positions like they're preparing for a war. Agent Martinez was gesturing for me to keep him talking while she coordinated with the tactical teams. Michael, I'm scared. This feels like a trap. It is a trap, he said quietly. But Sarah, Elena made a mistake. She's so focused on capturing you that she's exposed her entire operation. There are federal agents everywhere. How do you know about the federal agents? A pause. Because I've been working with them for 6 months. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Sarah, I never went rogue. The fake death, the secret identity, the stolen files. It's all been an elaborate undercover operation to infiltrate Elena's network. Agent Martinez's eyes went wide. She grabbed the phone from me and put it on speaker. Michael, this is Agent Martinez, FBI. Confirm your operational status. Agent Martinez, thank God. This is Agent Michael Chen, Deep Cover Operation codenamed Phoenix Rising. Elena's people have discovered my real identity. I need immediate extraction. Victoria was frantically checking files on her tablet. Sarah, there's no record of any Agent Michael Chen in FBI databases. Because the operation is classified above your clearance level. Michael's voice came through the speaker. Sarah, Elena's coming up to my room right now. If you don't get here in the next 10 minutes, she's going to execute me and disappear forever." Agent Martinez looked confused. "Michael, we have no record of any deep cover operation involving." The line went dead. 2 seconds later, the secure device that Victoria had given me started beeping frantically. A message from an unknown sender. "Sarah, this is the real Michael. Whatever you just heard on the phone, it wasn't me. Elena has my voice patterns, my speech patterns, everything. Don't come to the hotel. It's a trap designed specifically for you." I stared at the device, then at my phone, then at Agent Martinez. Which one is really my husband? Both messages could be lies. Agent Martinez said grimly. "Elena's technology is sophisticated enough to mimic voice patterns, and she's had access to Michael's communication devices for months." I stared at both devices, feeling completely helpless. "So how do we know which one is real?" Victoria was studying the hotel through binoculars. "We don't." "But Sarah, we have another option. We stop playing Elena's game entirely." "What do you mean?" "I mean we've been reacting to Elena's moves all day. It's time to make her react to ours." Victoria lowered the binoculars and turned to face me. "Sarah, we have something Elena doesn't know we have." Agent Martinez smiled for the first time all day. "The complete financial records of the Meridian Group. While Elena has been focused on you, our forensic accountants have been tracking every transaction, every client payment, every offshore account." Victoria pulled out a laptop and opened it. The screen showed a complex web of financial connections spanning multiple countries. Elena's organization has been selling information to buyers in Russia, China, and North Korea, but their biggest client is actually a domestic corporation. "What company?" "Blackwater Industries. They've been paying the Meridian Group to steal competitors' research and development data." I recognized the name. Blackwater is huge. They have government contracts, military relationships. Exactly. And if we can prove they've been buying stolen classified information, we can bring down Elena's entire network through their financial connections. Agent Martinez was coordinating with someone on her radio. "Sarah, we're about to execute simultaneous raids on Blackwater Industries headquarters and Elena's backup safe houses. But we need Elena to stay in that hotel for another 30 minutes. How do we keep her there?" "By giving her what she wants," Victoria said. "Or at least making her think she's getting what she wants." David had been quiet through most of this, but now he spoke up. "You want Sarah to go into that hotel. We want Sarah to appear to go into that hotel," Agent Martinez corrected. "Sarah, how do you feel about wearing a wire and walking into the most dangerous situation of your life?" I thought about everything that had led to this moment. Michael's fake death, the secret office, Elena's manipulation of our entire marriage, the threats against my mother and David. For months I'd been a pawn in Elena's game without even knowing it. "What's the plan?" Victoria opened a case containing sophisticated surveillance equipment. "You go in wired for audio and video. We have sharpshooters positioned on surrounding buildings, tactical teams in the hotel stairwells, and electronic surveillance monitoring every communication in a 3-block radius. And if Elena realizes it's a setup, then we have federal agents ready to storm the building and protect you," Agent Martinez said. "But Sarah, Elena is expecting you to come alone and scared. If you walk in there confident and prepared, she might realize something is wrong." I picked up the secure communication device and typed a message. "Michael, if this is really you, tell me something only you would know. Something private that you never would have told Elena." The response came immediately. "The night before our wedding, you had a panic attack because you thought you weren't good enough for me. I held you while you cried and told you that I was the one who wasn't good enough for you. I promised that every day of our marriage, I would try to deserve you." My eyes filled with tears. That memory was completely private, something I'd never told anyone. "It's him," I whispered. "The secure device is really Michael." "Which means the phone call was Elena," Agent Martinez concluded. "She's trying to lure you in with false promises of rescue. So what do we do?" Victoria handed me the wire equipment. "We go save your husband." At 10:45 p.m., I walked through the Driscoll Hotel's main entrance wearing a wire, a hidden camera, and more surveillance equipment than I'd ever imagined existed. But for the first time in this entire nightmare, I wasn't afraid. I was angry. Elena Rodriguez was sitting in the lobby bar, sipping wine and reading a magazine like she was just another hotel guest. When she saw me, she smiled and stood up gracefully. She was younger than I'd expected, more beautiful and absolutely nothing like the monster I'd built up in my mind. "Sarah Chen," she said, extending her hand. "Finally, we meet." I didn't take her hand. "Where's my husband?" Straight to business. "I respect that." Elena gestured toward the elevator. "He's upstairs waiting for you. But first we need to have a conversation." "We don't need to have anything. I'm here for Michael, and then I'm leaving." Elena's smile didn't falter, but something cold flickered in her eyes. "Sarah, you have something that belongs to me. Information that your husband stole before his dramatic exit from our organization. I don't know what you're talking about. The Sterling Defense files. Michael downloaded them before faking his death, and we know he gave them to someone for safekeeping. Since you're the only person he trusted, that someone must be you." I stared at her, genuinely confused. "I've never seen any Sterling Defense files." "Then you'll help me search for them, starting with that secret bank account Michael set up in your name." My blood went cold. She knew about the account that Agent Martinez had shown me. "You see, Sarah, Michael was very thorough in his preparation. He created multiple backup plans, multiple hiding places for sensitive information, and you, my dear, are the key to all of them." Elena stepped closer, and I could smell her expensive perfume. "The question is, are you going to cooperate willingly, or do we need to persuade you?" Through my earpiece I heard Agent Martinez's voice. "Sarah, federal teams are in position. Keep her talking for 2 more minutes." I looked Elena directly in the eyes and smiled. "Actually, Elena, I have a better idea. Why don't you surrender now, before this gets any worse for you?" Her smile vanished completely. Elena's hand moved toward her purse, but before she could reach whatever weapon was inside, federal agents emerged from every corner of the hotel lobby. The elegant woman who had been sitting at the next table reading a newspaper was Agent Martinez. The businessman, checking in at the front desk, was part of the tactical team. Even the bartender was federal law enforcement. "Elena Rodriguez, you're under arrest," Agent Martinez announced, her gun drawn. But Elena wasn't looking at the agents. She was staring at me with something that looked almost like admiration. "Very clever, Sarah, but you still don't understand what you've gotten yourself into." "I understand enough. Do you? Do you understand that your husband has been playing a game within a game? That even now he's not telling you the complete truth?" Agent Martinez moved closer. "Elena, you have the right to remain silent." "Sarah," Elena interrupted, ignoring the agent completely. "Ask your husband about Project Mirror. Ask him why he really married you. Ask him what he was hired to protect." "What are you talking about?" Elena smiled one last time before Agent Martinez cuffed her. "You're not just Michael's wife, Sarah, you're his assignment. You always have been." As the agents led Elena away, her words echoed in my mind. Through my earpiece, I heard Victoria's voice. "Sarah, we need you to get to room 1247 now. We've just breached the door, and what we found, you need to see this yourself." I rode the elevator to the 12th floor with my heart pounding. When the doors opened, Agent Martinez was waiting for me, her expression grim. "Sarah, I need to prepare you for what you're about to see. The man in that room, he's not Michael." "What do you mean?" "I mean we've just discovered that the real Michael Chen died 6 weeks ago, exactly like we thought. The person who's been sending you messages, the person Elena was holding in that hotel room. Sarah, we don't know who he is." I walked toward room 1247, where everything I thought I'd finally understood was about to shatter again. Inside the room, sitting on the bed with his hands zip-tied behind his back, was a man who looked exactly like my husband. But when he looked up at me, his eyes were the eyes of a complete stranger. The man who wasn't Michael looked up at me with familiar features but unfamiliar eyes. "Sarah, I can explain everything. Can you?" I sat down in the chair across from him, surprised by how calm I felt. "Because I'm not sure I want to hear any more lies." Agent Martinez entered the room carrying a thick file. "Sarah, His real name is Marcus Webb. He's been Michael's backup identity for Phoenix Group operations for 3 years. When Michael died, Elena forced Marcus to take over his life completely. Marcus nodded slowly. Elena threatened to kill my sister if I didn't cooperate. I've been living as Michael, sending you those messages, trying to protect you while also trying to protect my family. And the secret account? The warm coffee in the garage office? That was all real, Michael, Marcus said quietly. He did set up that account for you. He did leave those clues. Elena had me maintain his office to make it look like he was still alive, in case Phoenix Group came looking. Agent Martinez opened the file. Sarah, we need to tell you about Project Mirror. 15 years ago, the NSA identified you as the daughter of a former Soviet intelligence officer who defected to the United States. The room spun slightly. My father died when I was 5. He was a construction worker. Your father was Colonel Dmitry Volkov, a high-ranking KGB officer who brought classified information about Soviet nuclear programs when he defected. That information was never fully debriefed before he died in a car accident. You're saying my father was a spy. We're saying the NSA suspected you might have inherited information, documents, or access codes that your father hid before his death. Michael was assigned to marry you and monitor you for any sign that you knew about your father's legacy. I looked at Marcus, then at Agent Martinez. So my marriage really was fake? No, Marcus said firmly. Sarah, I've read every report Michael filed about you. He fell in love with you for real. The assignment became secondary to protecting you. That's why he eventually stopped reporting to his handlers. Agent Martinez nodded. The garage office, the secret accounts, even his work with Elena, it was all Michael trying to build resources to protect you from people who wanted to use you to get to your father's secrets. What secrets? I don't know anything about my father except that he died in an accident. That's what we thought too. Until we found this. Agent Martinez handed me a small brass key, identical to the one I'd found taped under Michael's desk. Sarah, your father left something for you. And now it's time to find out what it is. I took the key and felt its weight in my palm. After everything I'd learned, after all the lies and revelations and betrayals, I realized I was ready to discover the truth about my own identity. Not as Michael's widow, not as Elena's target, but as Dmitry Volkov's daughter. The real story was just beginning.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.